My name is Jeff Hayzlett. I'm the former Chief Marketing Officer for Eastman Kodak, and I've been called about a lot of things, some of them good, some of them not as good. I'm out on my own these days doing a bunch of television and doing a book tour, and this week an unbelievably good speaking tour, which has been great. But I'm going to ask my panel to come up. You had a chance to meet Carol. As most of you know, Carol is well known in this industry, one of the advertising ages, women to watch, and she's certainly been a very good woman to watch. Last year in 2010, she was named one of the top 25 by iMedia as one of the top executives in the internet industry. She's active on the A&A. In fact, we should probably get a chance. In fact, all day today, I've been spending my room talking about top-level domains, which is a big thing inside the A&A. And I don't know if most of you, I don't know where you're at with that subject, but it's going to be permeating more and more of the things that you do. Carol, you know, is the head of digital for Kraft. She's now at Mars, so she went from snacks to drugs, or no, to candy, and now you're doing some drug stuff. Yeah. So maybe there's a theme in here as well, so it's just kind of nice. I'd like to bring up two other individuals. I'll bring up, first of all, Christopher Cox. Christopher, if you could come up and take a seat. He's responsible for providing the strategic thought leadership and directing all consumer-facing digital marketing affairs at the very iconic global chocolate manufacturer headquartered in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Do you know who that is? It would be Hershey. Hershey. You got to be glad. I mean, that's got to be so frickin' cool to have a whole town named after your brand. And you know, the fact that you're Hershey, I bet you're glad you're not in like Dogwick, Pennsylvania or something like that. People, that's funny. I don't give a crap where you're from, okay? This is about as good as it gets. Now, I'm from South Dakota. Anyone here from South Dakota? North Dakota doesn't count, ma'am. No, South Dakota. I always ask, but it's funny that you and I are the only two from the Dakotas. This is what we would call population density right here in this room, right? No, I'm not shitting you. You'd be like the 7th largest city in North Dakota or South Dakota. So. Oh, come on, people. This is not easy being up here, but anyway. I always ask that. It reminds me, being with you guys reminds me of the first time I was with my wife, soon-to-be wife, and then great-grandmother. She looked up at Tammy, and she looked way up at me, and she looked at Tammy, she looked way up at me, she turned to Tammy and said, "Isn't he bigger than necessary?" It's a tough crowd, Brad. I'm telling you that right now. And my next panelist I'd like to bring up is Mr. Gary Milner. Gary is the Global Marketing Director for Interactive at Lenovo. He acts in his leadership role at Lenovo for global digital marketing. He's in charge of everything, very heavily in direct teleweb business, search business, Google TV ads, display advertising, and he has spearheaded the formation of many of the digital dashboards at Lenovo, which will be kind of interesting. I put together some questions with the team. I'm going to ask them to bring those questions up if they could. We're going to make this a very interactive session with each of you because we're going to talk about why, you know, this is such an important thing. Now, I was a chief marketing officer at Kodak. I had 3,500 vendors when I started. I ended up with 170 by the time I got out of there 4 years later. Drove most of the advertising spend from below the line, where most of our advertising spend was below the line, to over 78% of our advertising spend being above the line. Which we did in 4 years. And everybody's moving to digital, and thinking about the digital side. So, and everybody's talking about digital. I think digital is no more different than any other medium that we have, although this is the one that's getting the attention. In fact, I think it's the one that gets the most attention, and I think, you know, just like mobile, we're seeing a lot with mobile these days, right? But I think most CMOs, if I'd ask most CMOs what their opinion of their mobile strategy would be, I have an iPhone app. That would be it. So let's talk about a little bit more deeper about the digital side. What marketing goals or challenges have you solved with digital that haven't been solved with other media? Let's ask about that. So what specific one have you guys gotten into that said this is a digital answer, not a more traditional television, radio, or some other piece? Anybody who wants to take that first?
Well, since I just got the question about half an hour ago, maybe I'll take it. It's so well thought out. Seriously. First of all, I disagree that digital is like everything else. You ask the same questions, right? You ask the same questions of digital as you might ask of any other platform. That's what's similar. What's different, I think, and what's incredibly unique is the complexity that it takes to execute against those same questions.
Well, a TV ad's complex, a print ad's complex. They're all complex. A fax campaign, a direct mail campaign, they're all complex.
They're all complex, but I think they're complex in a different way, and this is a different question, certainly. But from a digital perspective, we talked about proactive transparency yesterday, okay? And I don't think that there's enough of that transparency in the digital space, which in and of itself makes it more complicated. So up until now, we've got many, many years, certainly with direct marketing, direct mail, television, et cetera, and we've uncovered, we've peeled away the onion of all of that media, and we understand the logistics around it, the complexities around it. So it's about understanding it in order that it not be as complicated as it is.
So you tell me people lie on the internet?
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
It'll happen from time.
So anyway, to answer the question, what can you do differently on digital that you cannot? Well, certainly in my experience at Mars, we were able to build very quickly brand ambassadors. And that's one thing that you just can't do that with television, right? So especially as it relates to new products, new flavors, not necessarily new brands, that's a whole other animal, but just new products. And when you need to get those new products out there in the market and turning rather quickly before you have to give up your shelf space to this guy over here, it's really critical that you develop your brand ambassadors, and online allows you to do that very quickly.
I think that's probably one of the biggest ones, at least faster. I'll get back to it. I still think you can do it through TV. I'll give you a great example of the one. I like healthy debate, if you can't tell that. You can imagine what my staff meetings were like at Kodak, but this is what we did. And we talked through things because I just think it's a real good thing to do, create tension. Creating tension is a good thing for most marketers. We don't do enough of it. But I saw the Chrysler ad a few minutes ago. Did you see that? Now, I would argue that Anthem ad would build brand ambassadors for you because people went out and talked about it like crazy because it was such an Anthem ad of feeling for the group. So, Christopher, what about you? What marketing goals and challenges have you solved with digital that you couldn't solve with anything else?
Well, hands down, the first answer popped in my head was engagement. It's just between the display advertising that we do, using our owned media properties as well as social, we really get that two-way dialogue going, and we can put our messages out there to really leverage that emotional connectivity that our consumers and our fans have with Hershey and our family of brands. And then from there, we make them aware, and then we get them to really talk about it themselves. What are their experiences with Hershey brands, whether it be, an instant consumable product like Kisses or Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, or products like Hershey Cocoa or even our Hershey bars, which can be used in baking. And then when you bring that component in, you really get that loyalty factor, just ratchet up so many notches. I mean, because you can't make that stuff up.
It can be much more viral, too.
Exactly.
I think you can add more zeros to it, and it's easier to do. I mean, you can get it through exponential, in terms of experiential,
right.
Marketing campaigns, too, but you don't see it. I mean, going city to city or street by street, it's a little tougher to do.
And it's great, because you see that loyalty, and then they become the advocates, especially in the social channel, and that's the earned shared media that's worth its weight in gold. So they go out, and everybody, when it comes to baking in particular, love to show the creation. So it's kind of that food porn, as we like to call it.
Food porn.
Yeah.
We didn't call it that.
Porn. Kraft has done a good job with that. Beth and the team, I know that a lot of the Mary Beth and the team, they do a real good job. I think a lot of different Facebook pages. I don't know how many damn followers there are of Oreos, for instance. It's like going to be like 1.5 million. It's huge.
I don't know. Does anybody know?
Is anybody here from Kraft that can tell us?
Yes.
So like 1.5 million. It's freaking huge.
It's
Don't even ask the question, do you like the middles better or the outside?
It's huge. And even Skittles, for example, when I left a few months ago, it was 13, 15 million fans. I mean, it's crazy.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that's what we've seen with Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. We have over 8.5 million Facebook fans, and a lot of that, by and large, has come just from organic growth. People coming in and talking about their love for the Reese franchise.
This is cool because we're plugging every product we make here. So
absolutely.
It's like a plethora of hey, let's bring it out. I'm waiting for a bar to come out in a second.
Yeah, that's the thing. Just to follow on that point, though, is if you look at Facebook fans of products, if it's driven entirely from a TV buy, which a lot of these things are, then I would argue it's probably false, right? Because you're not really generating real fans. And what's really important is what you do with them afterwards, right? These fan counts are all bogus.
So the biggest thing you guys are saying I'm taking away from it's really about the engagement. Well, there's a couple things: engagement, transparency, being real, credible, right? Those are very important parts to the digital. So So that gives you more credibility, gives you greater transparency and greater reach. How about for Lenovo? I mean, how's it been a little different? I mean, these are more consumer brands.
It's very different from us because you've got to look at our history, right?
Yep.
You know, we were bought, Lenovo bought the IBM PC business. We weren't traditionally a consumer brand. We didn't actually spend a lot of money on traditional marketing to build our brand. So digital's actually been really important for us because what we did is we built an e-commerce business. We built a whole stack of everything from affiliates to search to display advertising to shopping engines, the whole works, all off a digital platform. We put Omniture sat underneath that. We have a multi-attribution analysis platform in there. And if you go back to what Jeff said, yes, I mean, the internet's the hub of activity. So you can do your TV and the other things, and that does generate awareness. There's no doubt about that. But then the next point of engagement is the web. So if you've got the right setup, you can start to see how people are coming into your site, where they're coming from, what the attribution is. Because there's been a lot of talk about, you know, half the people don't see display ads, half the people don't watch TV ads, or they're doing multitasking when TV's on. So what's the real thing that's happening once people come off that? And digital allows you to do that. We can see where people are coming from on the site on a multi-attribution basis, right? Which is really, really important.
So you're getting in an area which the next question I want to talk about, and that's on the analytics and platform solutions. So if you look at this, there's a plethora of these. I mean, I'm now out and about and doing a lot of work, and every day the phone rings off. I mean, literally, where somebody's saying, Jeff, can you get us in front of the brands? That's the number one question. Can you get us in front of these people? So you've got so many of these. How are you, you know, what's your one go-to source for deciding whether or not these guys are worth it or not? They're worth the time. Because I can think of 3 different sentiment analysis, you know, companies, and I mean, there's not one that solves all tools. I'm sure there's some vendor here that will tell me that's the case. But I mean, where's your go-to source, guys?
Well, it's iMedia, right?
Well,
shameless
plug,
yeah.
Shameless plug, that's good. Yeah, but I mean, I certainly think, you know, I always talk about being in good company. Being in good company with events like this are real critical. I mean, it's one of the things I like about iMedia. I was at one of their events yesterday. I'm at this event today. But it's good to have that where you can, you know, share with one another and be able to open up and talk and not have to ask a stupid question in front of your boss, right? I mean, but where else? I mean, you got to be picking up some other things.
Yeah, for sure, it's a good question because I don't think there is a single source to do it. I mean, you have to have the radar up constantly, and events like this are fantastic because it provides, you know, structured opportunities to go ahead and dialogue and meet people and talk to what their capabilities are and see how it's applicable, as well as the offline ability to talk even deeper. But then also just, you know, keeping ears open through the trades, through your contacts, through social networks like LinkedIn. And again, bringing people in for one-on-ones. I don't think there's any replacement for that classic face-to-face meeting.
Is it mostly coming, though, from the contacts that you make from these kind of places, or where?
It's a big part of it. That's a big part of it, and also staying on top of, you know, who do you benchmark against, who do you respect as marketers, whether it's in your vertical or outside, and just picking up the phone or email and saying, hey, you know, who are you using? Are you having good experiences with them? Let's talk about that, and then reaching out on your own.
Gary, on a tool like, let's take a service provider in this area. When was the last time you bought one based on an email someone sent you? Never, right?
Never.
Yeah.
So I see events like this as more of a prospecting, so understanding what's out there, what's out in the ecosphere. And then there's obviously other shows and events and network people you build, is then bounce those things off them. But at the end of the day, what I would say is you've got to get into testing and scaling, right? So it's hard when you get on analytical platforms like Omniture, because once you made a decision, take for a global company, it's kind of hard just to move. But there are many things where you can actually put small-scale tests in, try it out, and then take it from there. Because, you know, who do you believe, right? You can ask many people have different opinions, but at the end of the day, it depends on your business and your business objectives and what works for you. So where possible, have a good relationship with the IT team, the analytics teams, and, you know, get them to be part of that culture of adopting things, testing things, and scaling. We do that all the time, both at the e-commerce and at the branding level now.
Carol, about you?
Well, I think it's kind of sad that back in the day you would look to your agencies to bring all of these new solutions to you. But quite frankly, they're so lean these days. They're mostly focusing on what they already have, what they already know for the most part, and you can only get the agencies to come forward and provide something new maybe a few times a year,
50%
right?
of the people are out of college.
Right, they're just out of college. They don't even know the difference, what's new, what's old. So they're selling
They
what they
can't
know.
spell ROI yet, right?
So they're selling what they know to be true because there's a lot of risk in this business, right? They don't want to recommend something that is not tried and true yet. However, a couple other places where I think you can, besides iMedia, which quite frankly, that has been the #1 place for me to find new ideas, has been either iMedia or some of the other summits. But in addition, I'm noticing the R&D departments of companies are starting to get heavily involved in this area because, again, they have a curious mind and they're starting to take meetings with solution providers. And then I think I've seen at a company recently that they are hiring contractors or a very small outside firm for the role of really vetting new solutions. And I think that's also another way to go. Jeff, it sounds like you're doing some of that yourself.
Yeah, we do a lot of it, and we try to help. But most of it's just having trusted advisor, and that's what I think you said with iMedia, which I think is good. How many of you, by raise of hands, learned of another great vendor here, and you're going to go back and look at them based on what you heard? And look at that, about half the room, and the rest of you aren't making eye contact, so you're selling it. So there we go. All right. Anyway. So let me ask you the question, because Gary, you've been great lead-in for these questions, and I think maybe it's because of your Charlotte accent there, but
It's Raleigh.
This is Raleigh. Is it Raleigh? I thought it was Charlotte.
It's Raleigh.
I visited the headquarters, but well, obviously it was very impressive
Deep
to me to
South
remember.
accent,
I guess it was like. So how truly global
It's a good English accent.
It's good. Yeah. Is it English or Irish?
It's none of them.
It's none of them.
It's English, actually.
Is it really?
It's Geordie.
Really?
Northeast England. It's
Oh.
called Geordie.
Wow.
I'll tell you what that means.
Let's go have a pint afterwards. All right. So how important is a truly global marketing strategy for you guys versus one that's just international? I hear international sometimes and then say, "Ooh, yeah, we do business in Canada too." So what? See, now you're getting it. Now you're getting it. See, I got Canada. I mentioned Canada. It's like America's hat, right? There we go. Jeez. Who are the media players that you find are doing a really good job executing against global marketing goals? Because we got global companies here, so.
From our perspective, we're still on just launching this brand journey for the company, but I've got to say Google's been our big platform provider on that, based on the display side, on the search side. We've actually centralized search, actually the company in San Diego, for all of North America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Brazil, and all of Europe. And we're able to do that because the platforms are consistent, the procedures are consistent. It's the same on the display advertising. So when they're rolling out the same way of working everywhere, it allows us to scale globally very easily. So I think we'll look at other vendors. We're more on the aspect of getting consistent creative globally first, and then looking at media providers later. But Google's been the key one across the mix that we've got.
Yeah, I actually leap onto the first part of the question. And while we do have global brands and go to market with them in that capacity, it also really depends on the objectives and the life cycle of the brands. I mean, you take a brand of ours like Kisses, where it is 100 years old here in the United States, it's got like 98% top of mind awareness. Conversely, you take that to China or to India, and it's much more in need of brand awareness there. It's got much higher top funnel needs rather than the bottom funnel needs we would have in the U.S. So what we do in the U.S. is going to have a different approach than how we would take it to market in some of the other regions around the world. But from there, we would lean on our agency partners within those countries. We wouldn't want to be of the ilk where we say we have to follow this exact template in every country around the world. What we do is we work with our marketers in those countries and find the best appropriate solutions based on what their objectives are and the brand's life cycle.
I think,
Carol?
Chris, I'm going to say similarly, it's more about the strategy, the earlier part of the conversation. I think that companies, for the most part, with global brands, are just getting to the point where they have a way of going to market. And they may have, this is the way we go to market with a new brand, and this is the same brand that is, you know, is very mature, and this is how we go to market with a mature brand. I know it took us about a year at Mars to discover, vet out, and test some of the global, or actually the local strategies in digital that we then compared to Europe, and then we were able to say, you know what, this works in the US, this happens to work in Europe, so this is something we can look at as a global strategy. But then again, we've got to bring in, you know, Asia Pac, and Asia Pac is a completely different way of going to market from a communications perspective.
Can I ask a question about that, and about the teams that are organized for that? Are they, the Asia Pac teams, would they have been Asian team members, or are they Americans you've transplanted over there?
No. They're, well, they could be anything. I mean, Mars is very global, so, but they just happen to be folks from Asia. Yeah.
Native.
Yes,
native
very native.
So, I mean, just one point on part of being global in nature is you've got to give the local regions the platforms to be able to work, you know, to be able to execute something.
Right.
So a good example is YouTube. We got some great marketing people. We just had everyone into Raleigh recently as a global summit. But unless you're all working off common platforms to go and work on, they could do some local creatives, then you have a very difficult job of executing properly. You get complete chaos. So for example, I'll plug the company. We just signed a contract with this moment to run our YouTube platform globally. It's a consistent CMS platform to post stuff onto. But now we've got this.
Who's the company?
This Moment.
Oh, this moment. Okay.
Yeah, they're not owned by Google, but they're very much pushed by them. So Disney and various other companies are using them. But you can create a wow experience on YouTube, and you can start putting a strategy around what's your company goals, what's your brand campaign goals, and what's your local goals, and put local campaigns on, because there's always local things going on.
So then
you're giving them a platform to work off, right? Well, as opposed to just complete chaos inside their existence.
But then it becomes the governance. I'm going to ask you a question about that. I remember I'll give you a little example, but I changed business cards. I know this isn't digital, but there's an analogy here. But I changed the business cards at Kodak. You used to have your picture on the front, you know, and then I said, well, change the pictures. And then I said on the back of the cards, let's put a picture, whatever picture you want on the back of the cards. I mean, we're photography, and we're about imaging. So let's put any picture that you want, your personal brand statement. On the back of mine, I had me on the back of my horses. If you like your cats, put your cats. You like your kids, put your kids. And I remember HR and legal come to me and said, well, we can't do that. And I said, what do you mean you can't do that? And they said, what happens if someone puts something that's inappropriate? And I'm going, I hope they do. At least we'll have something to talk about, you know? and then they said, no, we can't do that. I said, oh, yes, we are. We're going to do it. And they said, well, what do we do? I said, well, look, that's how you find out who the stupid people are, right? I mean, so what's the government? You know, but think about this. I mean, you got this huge digital, you got this digital strategy, digital platform. I mean, what rules or governance are you providing so that people don't make mistakes? Don't, you know, because you don't want, you know, I had 17 CRM systems inside the company when I first took it over. So you don't want those things. So what governance are you guys putting in place for your international teams? I'll start maybe with you, Chris.
Well, I mean, it's really working highly collaboratively between the in-country marketing teams as well as with legal, sometimes HR as well. And you know, obviously, even when you look at the restrictions that we have in the United States with COPA and KRU, those don't exist in other countries. So conversely, we're allowed to market differently our products in the countries that don't have those restrictions. But here, between those restrictions and some other alliances that we're in to market directly to children, you know, those are some of the very prevailing directives that we have to march against.
So you guys, but even on the tools too, you're putting those in? I mean, do you have different tools for different parts of the country, or different parts of the world?
It's still going to follow, it goes back to what Carol said, it's going to matter on the strategy of the global brand, and then how it gets executed locally. Some of the tools will be consistent, some of the tools will vary.
Let me ask a question, and then I want to go to the audience and get some questions and actually ask the audience a question too. Agencies, I heard agencies mentioned twice here. Are you using it more, is most of your digital strategy and implementation for the brand coming from internal, or is it coming from the agencies and being executed? How's it being done?
Both.
Yeah, but where's most of it being done? I mean, at Kodak, I mean, when we got there, I had to bring in-house, get it done, and then push it back out because they just didn't get it. You know, I had the big traditional agencies, and they didn't have a frickin' clue what I was talking about. You know, so I had to put it in-house, then I had to crate it, and then we pushed it back out. I mean, is that similar kind of thing for you guys?
I hate to say it, but it is true. Over the last 10 years, and we were talking about this at the Marketers Only session, during the last 10 years, because of the economy, because folks have been downsized and there's been a lot of turnover, I think on the agency side, folks are being promoted a lot quicker or maybe less deserving than they might have years ago. So I think a lot of what's happened now is the onus is on the internal folks to come up with a strategy, and certainly coach the agency is the best way to do it. Coach them into adopting that strategy, because everybody knows that if you butt heads with your agency, it's going to take a year to get something done versus maybe 6 months. So I don't know if you're noticing that as well, but I don't want to throw them under the bus. But it is sometimes difficult because they are younger and they don't have the same level of confidence to try new things that folks internally might have. Or somebody like me.
But stuff internally. I mean, we didn't have the expertise and had to go outside. I mean, the average age of my marketing team, I won't say average age. The average tenure of the person was 26 years. That means they'd been at the company in the marketing department for 26 years. Wow. I mean, and I needed 26-year-olds for a lot of that kind of stuff.
Well, that brings up a good point. I mean, what we like to do is I think you know your business better than even the best agency partner in the world can. I mean, you know all the intricacies, all the watch-outs, all the skeletons in the closet, the history. So I think that's a big part. I think the strategy is kind of like an auto going down the assembly line. I think the seeds, the idea start within the company, and we build out that thought leadership and really that raw ideation. And with Hershey, we're very big on collaborative endeavors with our agency partners. So then you kind of roll the strategy down, you go to an agency partner. To your point, we've got seasoned veterans who've lived the CPG category in chocolate and sugar and gum and mint. Then we take it to hopefully industry-leading agency partners that have the finger on the pulse of the latest trends, the latest technology, have best-in-class analytics, best-in-class creative and UX talent. And from there, it's highly collaborative. We have to be open-minded that the strategy might morph and shift and get reshaped a little bit. And they have to be open-minded is that there are certain mandatories that we have as companies and the way we market our products and policies that we adhere to. So it's kind of that give and take, and then in the end, you hope through that collaboration, you have a stronger end product. The good news is we have seen that in action. Sometimes it doesn't go as smooth as you want. Sometimes it takes longer. Some partners get it and get there quick, and other partners regrettably never get there. And that's kind of the natural selection that does occur with our roster of agency partners.
And sometimes you've got to build new conference rooms to fit everybody that's involved these days, and I'm not kidding.
You get a lot of cooks
or different
in the
ways of doing it. I don't know.
We have a lot of boutique, individual agencies. The challenge that gives you, though, is that then the marketer becomes the integration point, right?
And bandwidth.
So we got to have
the what becomes
the marketers.
Marketers.
Our company becomes the integration point in terms of the metrics, the data, the campaign integration. So it just creates a different set of challenges for us.
Yeah, we become like the quarterback in that. You've got a huddle. I mean, again, I gave an example, and I'm doing this for about. Quarter. There we go. Different term. I'll tell you at the pipe. But we had to create an agency council, so I brought together a marketing agency council, and I had different people that came on it because you had this agency, and they kept fighting each other because they wanted to do all the work. Have you guys ever had that before? And then so they're like one's kicking the other one behind the head, and the other one's throwing the other one under the bus, and finally we just had to say, look, you have to play your positions. You have to learn to play your positions, and it's like in a football huddle, they'd come to me and the guard would run up to me in the huddle and say, throw me the ball, I'm wide open. Of course you're wide open, you're a guard. You're not even supposed to look at the ball. And so you have to teach people to play those positions. Let's go to the audience. I want to ask you a question. I want you to do this at your table for like 3-4 minutes. What are the real brand metrics that matter to you? Are the days of panel-based approaches of brand perception lift numbered, or does that remain the default for brand campaign management? So answer this question amongst your table. We're going to come out. I'm going to ask Brad and the team to help me to listen. We're going to kind of mingle amongst your tables and listen to a couple of you and then pull a couple of examples. But want to take a couple minutes right now. What are the real brand metrics that matter to you? Let's see what the consensus of the group says. Got it? Go. take a quick break. They wanted some interaction. So we did. Huh? Yeah, no, they killed our sound. They killed our sound. I told them when we did that, kill our sound. So.
Stirring and exciting? Well, we all say like sales is the metric. That seems encouraging. So.
Okay, guys, we're ready to go again.
Okay, everybody, we're
okay.
gonna look back up at the stage now.
By the way, if you ever want to use that, it's one of the greatest tools in the world. Just go shh, and you can be at 3,000 people, and we think we're in kindergarten again. So, okay, Brad, I don't know about you, but walking around, I heard clicks, 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 clicks. That's what I heard.
I sure heard it too.
I heard a lot about that. What do you think about clicks? Just measurement by clicks.
They must have a lot of direct marketers in the room.
Yeah. Isn't it an old way of doing it? I mean, I want you to go to that table right there, right where, is it right behind you? Go to that table right behind you. Come on, guys, what did you guys say? What are some real brand metrics that matter to you? What? Jump up, say who you're, give a commercial, everybody else gave one, so you give one.
Yeah, thank you. Will Chapman from Audience Science. Thank you. We talked about that, you know, we were in this room, and for the last 2 days, we've heard about all these cool things that you can do as brands. You know, these great new inventive ideas, how to make yourself more aware, things that you can do, but you go to a couple of spotlight presentations and you hear about people optimizing for clicks. And that's what you see about. You see these great ideas come out of iMedia, but I find like when we go back to the real world, well, I need some clicks. And to me, that's a ridiculous metric. So the answer to your question is yes, that's a doomed way of looking at things in brand perception. If I knew the answer to what was next, I'd probably be up there.
Who was asking for clicks? Who in your are you with a brand or a supplier?
No, I'm a vendor.
A vendor. And so who's
But we see that from the brands or from the agencies, regardless of...
I'll guarantee you hear from the... look, this is fun, and I'm not asking you to defend, but I guarantee you'll hear that crap from the agencies, which I think is amazing. I can tell you as a brand leader, and let me see if I can speak for you guys for a second. I cared about 3 things. I cared about driving sales, and I always like my CFO, Jeff, remember profitable sales, like no shit. Oh, I want to drive sales that lose money every day.
Really expensive.
Can't wait for that, you know. And then I care about customer satisfaction, right? And in the end, I care about margins. I mean, that's the real 3 things I really care about. And, you know, I heard somebody say, well, let's drive clicks, let's drive buzz. Why don't we drive buzz? I said, well, why don't you just buzz yourself out the door? I mean, that's really, isn't that what you're really trying to do? Is that your measurements?
We are, Hershey's is a retail brand, so we're incredibly sales driven. So in the end of the day, the lift is crucial. The ROI that we get there, we want it to be a highly efficient medium for us. And brand health is important because we want that emotional connectivity, but if we're not moving product and not moving it efficiently, you know, then the other stuff is really quite secondary.
Yeah, a brand is nothing but a promise delivered, but you got to deliver the promise first.
That's correct.
And that means they got to taste it, they got to eat it, touch it, and feel it, right?
Yep.
What about brand measurements for you in terms of?
I mean, we are interested in raising our awareness and consideration significantly because we do have a fairly low brand awareness in a lot of markets. So it's really important. But I don't think clicks is important as such as a unique metric, but what you've got to do is look at the total impressions in marketplace and how is that transposing it in terms of volume of traffic on the web and in the internet and into your space, right? Because one affects the other. So you're putting a lot of impressions in market, display, TV, that's got to have some effect.
Yeah, but in the end, you've got to drive people to buy the product and use the product. Engagement, I think, in making you know, brand ambassadors, that's good. But that's a byproduct of it, not necessarily
but there's many
the
things
thing
that affect the sale other than just, I mean, you've got to get the traffic there to even make the sale, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but you can run TV ads and display ads, and just because they don't click on them doesn't mean it's ineffective if someone's then going and doing a search. Most of our traffic lift from TV and everything else is either straight URL type-ins or people come in through organic search.
Well, that's why I said digital is not the only thing. Brad, where did you go? There you go. Do we have another one back here that we can go to?
Anybody want to have?
Come on, who's got
all right,
something
I'm
they really want to say?
Here. All right, here we go. I will fall over somebody. Here we go. All right. Tell us who you are.
My name is Melissa Goydell. I'm from Brand.net. Gary, I'd love to get you offline after this session because Neo canceled an order on us because we didn't drive enough clicks. All right, so we totally love to discuss that.
But let me again, the brand did that? The brand did that or the agency?
The ad agency.
Yeah, see, this is, you know, I'm just going to say this because I'm so adamant. I mean, I fired every agency of record. Because that's not what they're about. You got to prove what you got to do. You got to do what you need to get done, and it's not about those kinds of things. And I just think that's ill-informed. Anyway.
No, it's terrible.
All right, well, another one here, and we'll come back.
Amy Bartle with La Quinta Inn and Suites, and actually at our table with my cohort from Allstate, not being a vendor, and maybe I owe some of you an apology for my agencies. It's absolutely brand consideration. First and foremost, as we talked about, you can think I've got a really nice hotel product, but if you're not going to stay with me, I've got great perception, you're not going to buy because there's no consideration. And really, bedrock awareness, we're talking, top trending Twitter topics, #1 on Google with our offers partner here at the table, and that's what it's about when we're coming in, is from a brand standpoint. First and foremost, it's awareness and consideration, so we can get into that conversation and continue the connection to the buy. And yeah, click-through rates do nothing more than say, is the creative as effective as the last stuff? It's not the measure of my sales.
Go right back over here. Stand up. Where are you from?
Skip Balch with Networked Insights. And what came about from our table for the poor guy that was the only brand represented was basically it's brand awareness. The problem is you're still looking in the rearview mirror. You're not getting any information that isn't 90 to 120 days old. The problem is by the time you take action and you move forward with trying to correct the perception, it's already changed again. The reality is right now there are tools available. Unfortunately, we have a generational issue at the top of a lot of brands, and we have a talent issue from an agency standpoint. But the tools are available so that brand awareness no longer has to be a trailing indicator. It can actually be a leading indicator. And so it really does come down to brands as well as agencies understanding that there are new technologies, but at the end of the day, to your point, Jeffrey, it's all about does it move the needle. And not does it move the awareness needle, but does it move the sales needle. Sergio Zyman canceled one of the most iconic ads in the world 2 days after it launched because it wasn't moving the sales needle. So it's all about that, and unfortunately, agencies still do not recognize that is the only metric that counts. Well, there's a big thing. We're out of time, and I know that we got some other great questions, and I know we're going to stick around and do that for you, but I want to leave with you is that one of the biggest trends, I'm actually going to be in San Francisco on Thursday speaking to 42 different CMOs that are just coming for a private lunch, and we said, look, this is the trends. The biggest trend that I am seeing right now in chief marketers, they are not coming from the creative side. 90% of all CMOs coming in their jobs today are coming from the business. Coming from the business. And I'm telling people today that the age of the chief creative officer inside a brand is dead. And they're looking for bottom line, they're looking for top line growth, they're looking for measurements around engagement, and I think that's going to be some of the change. So we heard some great things from Carol, from Chris, and from Gary, and hopefully some thought-provoking intention and some very bad jokes. And we thank you very, very much for having us. Give them a round of applause, and we'll turn it back over. Thank you guys very much. Good job. Nice meeting you. Good job.